What's up, everybody? If you grew up on sports like I did, you didn't just watch ESPN, you lived ESPN. Before there was a Get Up, before there was a First Take, it was ESPN SportsCenter starting at 7 a.m. and they replaying the same SportsCenter up until 11 in the morning. Y'all don't know nothing about it. But if you lived ESPN, then you lived through the era of one man who didn't just narrate, who didn't just read off a prompter, who didn't make sports boring. He made sports exciting because with every sentence, he would score. With every metaphor, it was like a Michael Jordan dunk. In every analogy, he was breaking tackles like Adrian Peterson. At the end of every highlight that mattered, one word you could hear it going through the living rooms across America. Boo-Yah. Stuart Scott wasn't just a broadcaster. He was a cultural landmark, a cultural staple, compass, a vibe. He was cooler than the other side of the pillow, as he would say, long before we knew what authenticity in media could even look like. But long before the catchphrases, before the swag, before the storytelling, Stuart was fighting quiet battles, y'all. From this ESPN documentary, 30 for 30, Stuart Scott had 18 surgeries on his eye. 18. Just imagine that. You're showing up every day to deliver sports joy to millions of people while you're literally fighting through pain that most of us will never experience. And still, he brought that same charisma, that same energy, that same I'm going to be myself regardless attitude. I'm going to be me. You just do you. I'm going to do me. That was Stuart Scott. But the real turning point, the moment the world realized who Stuart really was, the executives at ESPN, they saw Stuart Scott for more than just being who he was. They saw that while Stuart was cool to us, they saw that he could be serious to them. I'll let you catch on to that. And it came in 1996 during the Olympic bombing in Atlanta, Georgia. Tragedy hits. Confusion is taking over. When the world needs clarity, calm, composure, this is a sports show. But what Stuart Scott, he started cooking. He stepped into the moment. He stepped into a moment that demanded seriousness, and he delivered it with professionalism, with heart. And those same execs who once told him he's too urban, he's too cultural, he's too different, they had to acknowledge him. Shouts out to the tribal chief Roman Reigns. They had to acknowledge Stuart Scott that he's different. He's too good. We cannot just let him we can't pigeonhole him. We can't put him in a box. One thing I've learned about authenticity in this thing that we call life, sometimes the world doesn't appreciate it immediately. Sometimes people don't know what to do with it. Sometimes people don't know what to do with someone who refuses to shrink. Sometimes the system tries to round off your edges so that you can fit in that box that you weren't created to. But authenticity always ages well. Authenticity always finds its audience. Authenticity always leaves a blueprint for the next generation. And Stuart, he left a whole treasure chest. He left a whole architectural plan. He left a whole blueprint. He left gems because Stuart Scott, he walked so people like Jamel Hill could run. So people like Stephen A. Smith can become the highest paid person at ESPN. So Mike Hill could run. So Kerry Champion could run. So Jay Harris can shine and be great. So a whole generation of Black broadcasters and now even YouTubers could show up as themselves and still be respected as professionals. I love it. Sports broadcasting didn't shift because ESPN wanted diversity. Sports broadcasting shifted because Stuart Scott was diversity. He didn't bring culture into the room. He brought the room into our culture. And for me, for Chris Moore, for more insight, Stuart Scott is part of the highlight reel of my life. When I think back to my childhood, waking up in the morning, eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, had the remote in hand when we could finally afford cable, trying to catch all the plays that I missed the night before because, a brother had a bedtime. Stu's voice was the soundtrack of my life. The man was cooking, making metaphors jump out the TV, quoting rap lyrics before the execs realized that hip-hop wasn't a threat. It was a language. It was our culture. Reference movies, dropping bars, painting pictures, talking sports, and making it feel like an art gallery exhibit. Stuart Scott was an artist. And that's why I tell stories the way I tell stories today. That's why More Insight sounds the way it sounds. Why I reference songs, drop analogies, weave in movie quotes here and there. That's a direct line back to Stuart Scott. He made storytelling flavorful. He made it soulful. He made it black without apology and excellent without question. But of all the things Stuart Scott did, of all the catchphrases, all the iconic calls, all of the cultural contributions, the part that impacted me wasn't uh SportsCenter. It was him being a father. Because being a father, being a dad, is one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. And I say that as someone who didn't grow up with the blueprint. Single mom home, dad in and out of my life, trying to build something for my son now that I never saw modeled before. I don't want Kari to ever question whether his father was present. I don't want him to wonder if he was loved by his father. I wanted to break a cycle and build a legacy, begin a legacy, establish a legacy. And seeing Stuart Scott love his daughters the way he did, man, it hit me right in the chest. Stuart Scott showed us that you could be brilliant at your craft. You could be admired by millions. You could be on the biggest sports platform in the world. You could be the biggest streamer on Twitch. You could be the biggest YouTube star, but you still got to make it clear that being a daddy is your greatest achievement. That's what authenticity is too. Not just being yourself on camera, but being true to your purpose off the camera. Being the kind of man your children will one day brag about. Being the version of yourself that doesn't just entertain but inspires. My homeboys always say, I don't want my child to have to go to therapy because of me and my decisions and how I wronged them. Stuart Scott reminded us that your impact isn't measured by how loud the applause is, but by how long the echo lasts. And the echo of Stu's life is generational, it's cultural, it's legacy level. Authenticity may not always be appreciated immediately, but it's always recognized eventually. And its impact is lifelong. ESPN, let me say this clearly. Y'all killed this 30 for 30. Adrian Gaines, you cooked, my boy. You honored the man, the father, the pioneer, the storyteller. You honored someone who changed American sports television forever. So here's my final word. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for being yourself when the world didn't know how to receive you. Thank you for showing us that we didn't have to trade our culture for professionalism. Thank you for proving that storytelling is a superpower. Thank you for giving generations to show up fully in your voice, in your tone, in your identity, and in your purpose. And to ESPN, Boo-Yah, y'all knocked this one right out the park. Pookie, Skillet, Junebug, they all happy. And as far as this episode, call me Butter because I'm on a roll. Peace out, man. Rest in peace, Stuart Scott.